Welcome to a MainelyDIY.com video. So I am going to make a little Santa out of this shape that's preformed. I see this one's got a bit of a defect in it, so I'm not going to use that one for this project. I'll find a different project to use him for, but so here's one that's it's a preformed wood shape, and I am going to I've got some apple barrel red apple paint here, and I am going to paint the tip of one of these. Actually, I'm going to paint all the tips. I'm going to take and I'm going to paint a line down like that as a guide line towards the middle, and then I'm going to come off this one and paint down towards the middle in the same manner. So I'm reserving that other space for his face. And then I'm going to go ahead and fill in the rest of this with paint. Now, so I'm going to go ahead and make sure that I've got a wet surface on all of this. So actually repainting some of the tips because I had to take a break for a minute. And my paint started to set up more than I wanted it to. Because I want some wet paint here. Okay. So very quickly I'm going to wipe up my red paint here a little bit that's on my glass surface. And then I'm going to put a piece of wax paper down and move my little painted guy on there. And then I'm going to take some red glitter. And I'm going to go ahead and sprinkle that on him. This is why I wanted the paint wet. And I'm actually going to take my little sprinkler off. I'm working on wax paper because that way any of the glitter that is excess I can put back in my little glitter jar. Okay, so I'm going ahead and I'm coating that whole guy with some glitter. And I'm going to actually let it set there for a minute before I dump my glitter back in, before I dump him out. So I'm going to slide another piece of wax paper on there. Then I've got a couple shots at getting the excess glitter into my vial. So I am going to go ahead and turn my little guy upside down, and you can see I've got him mostly covered with glitter. There's some places that I've missed, so I'm just going to pick that up and hopefully get some adhesion on some of those spots that I'd missed. Alright, so I'm going to let that set on him. I'm not going to bounce all of his glitter off just yet. And I'm going to take my wax paper, fold it up, and try to get most of this glitter back in my glitter container. And then I'm going to turn him upside down and let any of the glitter fall off it wants to. And I'm just going to brush off any glitter that's on his face. So I have my little glitter man here, and he should dry a little bit longer than I'm letting him dry. But I am going to sneak in here with a fine point Sharpie pen, and I'm going to draw a little upside down U for an eyeball. And you can see the my ink got absorbed a little bit, so I am actually going to turn that into a round dot because it sucked up the ink a lot more than I anticipated. And for his nose, I'm going to come in, I've got a, this happens to be a Crayola marker, and I'm just going to make a little red dot for his nose. Not initially what I intended, but the wood soaked up a bit more of the ink than I anticipated. So I'm going to go ahead and make that red nose. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take one of these bumpy chenille stems, and I am going to trim it off right in the where it's not so thick. So I've clipped that off, and then I am going to just kind of bend that down, and what I'm doing here is I'm going to make a little Santa beard for my little guy. So I'm just going to kind of eyeball about what that needs to be. So these make cute little Santa beards. So I am going to take my craft bond glue, and I am going to squirt some of that down on my working surface. Right now I'm working on wax paper, and I've got my glass sheet under it. So I'm going to decide which side that I want to be his right side, as far as the glue goes. And I kind of want to make sure that he's even with these tips. So I'm actually going to cut off a little bit more. Now he's his beard's a little bit more consistent. So I am going to decide that this is going to be my wrong side. So I'm going to put some of this glue on there. I'm just taking a little paintbrush, and I'm going to go ahead and paint that on. I find this works a little bit better because then I can get it right where I want it, because if I squirt it out of the bottle, I'll squirt too hard to get some out and then end up getting it where I don't want it. So paintbrush gives me quite a bit of control getting it right where I want it. And then I'm going to flip it upside down and carefully put it right where I want that to be. And I'll let that set up, and then I'm going to take just a regular chenille stem and figure out how long that would need to be, and clip that off about that long. And I am going to go ahead and paint some glue on that, on one edge. I'll let that set up a little bit, and then I'm going to take a black pom-pom, and I'm going to paint some glue on that. Pop that right on the end of his arm, and I'm going to put one on each one of his feet. So I'm going ahead and glue that, get some glue on there. So I've got those done, and then I'm going to take some ribbon and make him a hanger. And I'm just going to use 1/8 inch ribbon here. I'm just going to cut off a piece of ribbon long enough to be a hanger. I'm going to tie a knot in the end of that. And then trim off my little tails. And I'm going to paint that knot with some glue. And I'm going to press that down on the tip of his hat. And then I'm going to take a white pom-pom and I'm going to paint that with glue, and then I'm going to set it on the knot of the ribbon. I'm actually going to try to get a little bit of glue on top of that knot and keep the knot where it is. Okay. And put it down and just hold it there for a minute or two. This one I'm going to kind of push down and hold because it's holding the ribbon too. So just going to poke down that for a few minutes here. And then we'll let him dry, and once it's dry he'll be ready to hang up.